BBC at 6.
Thank you, Smithy. Good morning, Essex. Welcome to Monday morning's breakfast show. 15th of January today, and it's a cold one here in the county. Talking Middlewick Ranges in Colchester next on the show. Making up part of the City Council's local plan for potential future housing developments in the years to come. Is it right that it is in that local plan with the potential to be built on? Your thoughts, 0800 111 40 41. We'll be talking about it in the next few minutes. Last hour, we started discussing parking, which kind of ties in with this whole housing discussion that we're having next, actually, and the availability of parking at Broomfield Hospital in Chelmsford. Do you regularly go there? Is it difficult to get a space sometimes? Get in touch on that free phone number or drop me a message and let me know.
BBC Essex.
We will also talk about collecting Pokemon cards, other stuff that you've collected. Fascinating chat about an auction relating to a pack of those cards here in Essex today. Potholes on the agenda, that's in the national news, so we can return to that as well. But just coming up to 6 minutes past 8, and let's get to one of our top stories this morning on BBC Essex Breakfast. And this is 17 environmental experts have written a letter to Colchester Council saying plans to build on Middlewick Ranges will have a devastating impact. Up to 1,000 houses could be built on the former MOD land. It's all part of the local authority's future housing plan. The site, though, is seen as being significant for wildlife. A report into the environmental impact from 2020 is now being called into question by the authors of this letter. Well, Colchester Council says it's commissioned independent ecological surveys starting in early spring to gather more evidence around this. If you're in Colchester, you got some thoughts on it, let me know. Dougal Urquhart joins me on BBC Essex, and Dougal is one of those who wrote to the council. He chairs the Natural History Society in Colchester. Dougal, morning to you.
Good morning to you. Good morning.
Morning. So you're one of the people who signed this letter then. Give us a flavour of some of the concerns that have been raised in this letter.
Well, I think the biggest concern is that we've got a really rich grassland site, one of the largest acid grassland sites left in Essex. And as the survey that was carried out in 2020, or the report that was provided to the Colchester Council in 2020, didn't really explore, didn't look at the wildlife in depth. And so the Natural History Society and the Essex Field Club and many other people were obviously very concerned, because we've all known that this is a really rich site. We've carried out more survey work, the Essex Field Club especially, and members of our society helped them. And we've demonstrated that this site is now of national significance. Bug Life, the national charity conservation trust devoted to conserving insects and invertebrates, designated it as nationally important. So we've seen through the survey work, we've managed to find a huge range of species. So we've got 1,480 different invertebrate species. 167 of those are of conservation significance, and this doubles the amount of wildlife data that we've known about since that report went in. So
this sort of wildlife, these species can't be found elsewhere. This is in the main
right. So
unique to this area.
Yeah, conservation status. Some of them are nationally rare. A lot of them are priority species of principal importance. We've got habitats as well. The acid grassland is a priority habitat. So yeah, and these species are really dependent on the grassland habitat and the variety of habitats associated around the grassland. So these little micro habitats, and we've been able to demonstrate that there are 8 microhabitats that are of SSSI significance. So the site is of a site of special scientific interest importance. It's not designated as one, but it is of similar status to that. So, you know, as a Natural History Society, we've got one of the prime insect sites, invertebrate sites, really in the whole of Essex, right on our doorstep. 1,000 houses are being planned for the area on the south side of town, and it's going to be devastating. Insects provide the support for the whole of our ecosystem services, and it's been described as the insect apocalypse. We've lost 75% abundance of insects in northwest Europe, and it's something that just can't go on, because we have to act now. And with this site right at our doorstep, the Naturalist Society, plus lots of experts and wildlife authorities are really concerned about this plan. And lastly, it's obviously a site that is of real importance for people as a local amenity. So it's you walk over there. If you visit the site, you'll see the huge network of paths. There are always people out there enjoying the area. So a hugely important site.
Dougal, I'm going to come back to you in a moment. Thank you for coming on, Dougal Urquhart there. Stay there and I'll come back to you in a second. Let's bring Glyn Evans in. And Glyn is the Chair of Environment at Wivenhoe Town Council. What's your thoughts on this, Glyn? Good morning to you.
My thoughts are exactly the same as Dougal's, only perhaps slightly less eloquent. I've been over to Middlewick a couple of times just to see what I could find there. It's on the other side of town to me. But there was a Dartford warbler there on my last visit, just near to the firing butts. So yes, absolutely, it's a piece of wildlife. It's a piece of wildlife habitat that we cannot afford to lose. And just for the benefit of the listeners, Dougal talks about ecosystems. Some of the people who object to some of the schemes that we're doing in Wivenhoe will say, there's a place for wildlife. Yeah, the problem is, you see, everybody declared a climate and biodiversity back in 2019 when we finally admitted there was one. What we're looking at here is a council that, rather than actually walking the talk and addressing the climate and biodiversity emergency, they're actually reducing wild space.
But they will say that they've looked into this and they've done some of those reports and investigative work in order for this bit of land to feature in the local plan. And I know not everyone's happy about it, and we've covered that quite a lot in recent years, but they will be all too aware of that. It's still been included anyway.
Yeah, so Sonia, those have listened carefully to what Dougal has said is, yes, there is a report. Yes, it's a tick in the box. But those who actually know what they're doing, who have scrutinised this report, have recognised it. Let me just go short of saying it's a work of fiction. But some of the people who remember watching Monty Python's Life of Brian, when they were looking for the people's front of Judea in their hiding place, they came out with a wooden spoon, even though people weren't very well hidden. Looking at some of these ecology reports, which, let's face it, are commissioned by the developers ultimately, are there to tell the developers what they want to hear. So what Dougal is telling you, and what is telling all of the listeners in Essex, is this is critically deficient.
The council, in their statement, and I'll bring it in full in just a moment, Glyn, saying that they're going to do some further studies. So does that fill you with confidence?
Well, not really, Sonia. This parrot is a dead parrot. It doesn't need a coroner's report and a further waste of time and public money to prove it.
But they're saying that they're going to check it out. They're saying they've done some of the stuff. They've enough stuff to put it in the local plan. They're now hearing some of these concerns. They're going to take those away and do some further studies. Fair enough, surely.
Well, they've had 17 of the nation's eminent naturalists already tell them that. What's the point?
So what would you like to see then, Glyn? You would like to see it taken out of the local plan altogether. What do you think is the best way forward?
Absolutely. Take it out of the local plan now and save face.
Where do we put those up to 1,000 homes that are so badly needed in Colchester instead?
How about anywhere but a nature reserve?
So give me an example. Where should they go instead? Because they'll say the pressure for housing's great. There's a need to build. They understand the challenges. But where else do you put it?
Yes, by putting it on a nature reserve, it appears they've crumpled under that pressure, haven't they? Literally anywhere but a nature reserve. I mean, I'm not a geographical expert, but I don't know what the surface area of Essex is that has potential building sites on it. But the area of Middlewick is only 76 hectares. What we're saying is include that 76 hectares of Essex to not build on.
Glyn, thank you for coming on. That's Chair of Environment at Wivenhoe Town Council, Glyn Evans. Let's bring you back in, Dougal. And you mentioned that it's actually very similar to a site of special interest, but it's not got the official designated status, has it, of that? I mean, is that an option that could be looked into? Would that then safeguard it and protect it for the future? As Glyn said, the only option in his mind is to take it out of the local plan. I'm guessing you think the same. How could you enable that to be protected for the future? Because it might, it's not to say it might come out of the local plan now and then in a decade, or it could change again, couldn't it? Unless it has some sort of special protection. Is that a possible way forward?
Yes, so Natural England is the government organisation who designate sites of sites of special scientific interest. So it's a designation which does take quite a long time to go through that process of designation. Natural England are fully aware of Middlewick and the threat that it poses, and wrote a letter to Colchester, to the planners, 2 years ago, I think, just ahead of the local plan appeal process review. And that particular letter wasn't circulated to councillors. It was withheld, but that letter really informed the council that they were under they needed to fulfil their duty in protecting biodiversity. And so that letter, if it had been fully available at the time, could have resulted in councillors making a different decision on that. And Natural England have just again sent another letter to the planners just before Christmas time, again reminding them of their duties. They are not in the process of designating the site of an SSSI, but they have confirmed that it is of that similar status. It does qualify. The habitats are in favourable condition to have it qualify, to have it designated. So they are watching this case, and they do reserve the right to. They have said they reserve the right to actually step in if they think that the council are not fulfilling their obligations within the local plan, and not protecting the biodiversity.
Dougal, thank you for coming on as well. Dougal Urquhart joining us, one of those who wrote that letter or signed that letter to the council, chairs the Natural History Society in Colchester. Let's bring you that full statement now from the City Council, which says, following recent consultations on the local plan, we've received some feedback regarding the Middlewick Ranges. We understand the community's concerns about protecting this valuable ecological site, and we are taking these concerns seriously. To gather further evidence, the council says we've commissioned independent ecological surveys starting in early spring. Additionally, all responses to the call for sites and green and blue network consultations, including those related to Middlewick Ranges, will be carefully analysed to inform the local plan review process. And the council ends the statement by saying we're committed to transparency and will provide a further update once all necessary information is available. In the meantime, residents can learn more about the local plan review on our website. Well, if you've got any thoughts as you've been hearing this, do get in touch. Stantec spokesperson, this relates to the initial report from a few years back into the environmental impact that we sort of touched on in the conversation there. Stantec says it'll seek to discuss the points raised with Colchester Borough Council should they request a response from the DIO, and once the appropriate teams have fully reviewed this letter. If you want to react to it, 0800 111 40 41 is our number. Good morning, it's 8:19. It is breakfast on BBC Essex with me, Sonia Watson. Barry Lewis now with your latest travel news. Morning, Barry.
Morning, Sonia. And beginning to get on the move again, I think, on the A133 around Wheelie, up towards the Freighting turn-off, towards the A1.
You're all good to go, folks.
All right.
Lovely.
Okay.
Good job. See you later.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that.
No problem at all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.